Gearbox has been pretty transparent on the development process of Borderlands 4 and has been showing off quite a bit of it without showing too much. But one thing the community has been asking about, which is a big make or break for a lot of people, is what the end game is going to look like. And today at PAX West, they talked about exactly that. We're going to talk about things like specializations, what is UVHM going to be like in this game, is it going to be like Borderlands 2 or is it going to be separate? And we also are going to talk about future content, because they did show off a bit of a roadmap, so that's really exciting. But yeah, stay tuned, we're going to talk about all of this right now. First, let's talk about specializations. So what are these? These are going to be skill trees that unlock for endgame after beating the campaign on your first character. After your initial completion of the campaign, it will be available from the start of any characters you create after that, just like Guardian ranks in Borderlands 3. Now, it's not going to be identical to Guardian ranks, or Badass ranks for that matter, because instead of just having a point sync that will gradually give you skills that seem to be really strong and drastically change the game in how you play it, this is going to be more focused on skill trees, and from what they talked about, it sounds like you're going to have to pick and choose. You might not be able to get everything. There's also going to be a respec option that you can enable with Iridium. They said it's going to be pretty heavy because they don't want you to change often. They want you to kind of focus down on what you want to specialize in, but you can respec if you want with a pretty high amount of Iridium. And on top of that, these look very strong and like full-fledged skills, not just additions that will drastically change the game across the board. The one on screen right now, Full Spectrum Arsenal, looks to be insane. It lets you have your ordnance damage benefit from gun damage bonuses up to 50%, which, you know, if you know how Borderlands games work and like the math and any literature works, that's a pretty big deal. That is something that can drastically enable or change builds for different characters if you're building into gun damage, for example. Second, they did talk about UVHM mode. For those unfamiliar, that stands for Ultimate Vault Hunter mode. It was present in Borderlands 2, but it's going to be something different here. Basically, once you're done with the campaign, you're going to have to play through a series of missions if you want to engage with this. These missions are designed to test your builds, so expect them to be challenging. You may fight new bosses entirely. Some of these bosses may also just be drastically changed. For anyone that has played Borderlands 2 and interacted with OP levels, it does sound a little bit like Digistruct Peak. Not OP levels themselves, but Digistruct Peak. You may have to go through something similar to that in order to unlock UVHM mode. Not only will we be unlocking UVHM mode here, but they weren't specific here, but they did kind of insinuate that there's going to be a multitude of UVHM levels you can go through, not OP levels, not Mayhem levels. The reason I know it's not going to be similar to those in terms of scaling is because they said that you will not need to grind out loot when you're going through UVHM. You can keep the loot that you beat the campaign with, and it will not lose its effectiveness as you go through. Now, he said when you beat the campaign, but I imagine that actually means max level, which is seeming to be 50. I know there was speculation around it, but they did kind of softly confirm that 50 will be max level at launch anyways, and that most people who play through will probably be somewhere in the 30s when they beat their campaign. So you may want to level up to 50 before engaging with UVHM so that your loot doesn't lose its value whenever the ranks start to increase. That being said, once you do unlock UVHM, there's not going to be any kind of like mayhem restrictions on the weapons, you know what I mean? Like when in Borderlands 3 you farm a boss, it'll drop something of the level of mayhem that you're on, and statistically it will reflect that. There's not going to be something like that with UVHM. Other things than just difficulty increasing with UVHM is the ability to replay certain missions. You're going to be able to go to specific locations called farm zones where you can just kind of farm the ads if you're just speed farming. They talked about this on Twitter a while ago, that that's going to be a viable source of endgame loot if you aren't one just for farming bosses for hours on end. There's also going to be a weekly wildcard mission that gives a guaranteed legendary. I imagine you're going to be able to do that once a week, as the name implies. There will also be an event every week called Moxie's Big Encore Hunt. For those unfamiliar with the Encore machine, it's essentially a machine that lets you instantly respawn a boss so that you don't have to save quit to farm the boss. This massively cuts down farm time and is a very welcome addition to the game. But on top of that, the machine will highlight one of the harder quote-unquote bosses every week to be its target. And you can spend Iridium at this boss's Encore machine to increase its legendary drop chances. Maurice's Black Market is also returning, except this time it will not have a universally identical stock, meaning that each player in their own games will have different weapons being sold from this machine. Also, and I'll just throw this in here because we're talking about playthroughs, but once completing the campaign once on any character, you will be able to create level 30 characters from scratch from that point on. This will be available at launch. The last thing pertaining to UVHM that I want to cover is the firmware system. Now, we've talked about this in the past briefly, but they are essentially gear set bonuses, except this time they mentioned that you can transfer them between gear somehow. They didn't really specify how that works, but they did say that you can have 5 pieces of gear with firmware bonuses equipped at the same time. These bonuses seem to max out after 3 pieces from the same set are worn, but you can mix and match to get, for example, a 3-piece bonus and a 2-piece bonus, a 2-2-1 type combination, or even just 5 level 1 set bonuses. So there does seem to be a level of complexity here with build crafting, and like it will play a major role in Endgame. Now let's talk about future content. Here's a roadmap to show it off, so before 2025 ends, there will be a seasonal mini-event called the Horrors of Kairos. It's probably going to be similar to the standard Halloween events, think Borderlands 3. So new loot and cosmetics, and this will be free. Then, the first of the paid DLCs is going to be Bounty Pack 1. These were confirmed by Sam Winkler, by the way, to be the same deal as Headhunters from Borderlands 2, but most likely bigger. And they will also feature vault cards, so if you remember those from Borderlands 3, those will also be making a return. Then, after the Bounty Pack drops, we will get another free update that adds an Invincible boss, of which there will be more in the future, and a new UVHM level, If you are unfamiliar with Invincible bosses, they are essentially raid bosses, and they did comment on them a little bit, saying they will be using the new gameplay systems that Borderlands 4 is introducing, so expect them to be very mechanic heavy, and hopefully they won't be BS mechanics like they are in Borderlands 2. In Q1 of 2026, we will get another Bounty Pack. It will then be followed by a story DLC, and I am very happy to talk about this because it is going to be similarly themed to the Guns, Love, and Tentacles DLC from Borderlands 3. That one is my favorite, by the way. I prefer it over Bounty of Blood by a mile. I know I'm in the minority there, but I do. It will revolve around Ellie finding herself in a cosmic horror wasteland, and they also mentioned that this DLC will be very dark and have tones and gore that haven't been present in the series up until now, so I'm excited to see what they've got cooking over there. It's called Mad Ellie and the Vault of the Damned, that's Ellie's voice actor on screen, by the way, and it will be coming with a new Vault Hunter along with the typical story DLC greatness that we've come to know and love. Now, we don't know anything about the new Vault Hunter yet, but they did show off their silhouette, and it gives off a sort of Plague Lands Witch Doctor type vibe, so I'm excited to see what they're all about in the future. They also added more stuff to the pre-order bonus. Now, you get a confetti gun at level 1, it's just a celebratory little goofy gun, a level 30 rocket launcher, which is supposed to be a basic ballistic missile with a low cooldown and high fire rate, because it works with the new ordnance system, obviously, and a level 30 grenade, that is supposed to be a special type of cloning grenade, apparently. And lastly, there is a level 50 rifle that Randy was very vague about. He refused to elaborate on it, but mentioned it was very strong and insinuated it was endgame viable, which is why it is locked to level 50. On top of all those weapons you get, and the cosmetics you're already getting, that were the previous pre-order bonus, you are also going to be getting Psycho Mask head skins for all the Vault Hunters. Lastly, and I know a lot of people here have been dying to hear this, but Pearlescents have been officially confirmed to be coming back. And while they won't be available at launch, they will be added to the game for free for all players with Bounty Pack 2 in Q1 of 2026. That's all the information I learned from the event. I hope you guys found it helpful. If you did, please leave a like and comment, as that goes a long way. I'm beyond excited for BL4 to drop, and I am praying that I get accepted into the Vault Network program, because that would be a major milestone for me. So any kind of support you guys show on this video would be very much appreciated. Thank you for watching. I hope you all have a great day. I'm Haderaxe, signing out. Peace.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you all.